Alright, what's good everybody? Welcome back to another video, and today we're just going to be covering the Season 20 weapon tuning preview that Bungie just dropped on us today. So, let's get started with it. In the Season 19 mid-season balance update, we brought in several changes to address weapons in PvP. In Season 20, with a new campaign and rating coming, we focused on a substantial pass over heavy weapons for PvE and adding subclass verbs to several exotic weapons, tying in with the new anti-champion capabilities these verbs now have. Between the new weapon changes and everything else that's new or changing in Lightfall, we're looking forward to seeing what combinations players settle on for the legendary campaign and the day one raid. Alright, let's hop into weapon archetypes. Okay. When playing on console, your reticle will turn red when it's over an enemy that's inside your weapon's effective range. This is a useful visual aid that we've wanted to be global for a while, so we've also enabled this on PC, and in future seasons we'll be making this color customizable, similar to the base reticle color. Red reticle is now enabled on PC, so for all you PC players out there, I'm sure that'll be pretty cool for you guys. Alright, covering linear fusion rifles. You probably saw this coming. Linear fusion rifles outperform other heavy weapons for boss damage by a wide margin. That is very true, and have had plenty time in the sun. We're bringing them down enough for other options to compete at the same time. Exotic heavy linear fusion rifles don't do enough to justify overusing one over a legendary, so they are not affected by this nerf. Sorry. Reduce damage by champions, mini bosses, and bosses and vehicles by 15%. Sleeper Simulator and Queenbreaker are unaffected. Sleeper fans, this is not a drill. Alright, covering machine guns now. Machine guns have been buffed a few times over the past year or so, but only in PvP. We've opted to increase their base damage a little, which makes them more forgiving to use in PvP. This buff also applies across the board in PvE. PvP damage is typically the base, and PvE has multipliers on top of that. We're also substantially increasing machine gun reserves, giving them higher uptime, particularly useful in hard content. Okay, nice quality of life change for those. Increase damage by 10% with the following effects on time to kill. TTK against a Guardian with tier 6 resilience. High impact frame. TTK reduced from 0.67 seconds to 0.50. Okay. Rapid fire frame. TTK reduced from 0.53 seconds to 0.47 seconds. Adaptive frame. TTK unchanged at 0.53 seconds. Okay. Increase reserve ammo by 50% at 0 inventory stat and 20% at 100 inventory stat. Note, inventory stat is a 0 to 100 value behind the scenes. This is presented as the actual number of rounds in game, but you can take this to mean that low reserve machine guns get a big boost, while large reserve machine guns get a smaller boost. Alright, that's pretty good for machine guns so far. Make them a little bit more useful in PvE. Alright, let's go on to heavy grenade launchers. Heavy grenade launchers haven't been touched in a while and are substantially below some other heavy options for damage. On top of that, grenade launcher projectiles have travel time, a ballistic arc, and relatively small blast radius, so it can be hard to consistently land shots on a moving target, and they might hit fewer targets with the explosion than you expect. With this change, heavy grenade launchers should be significantly more useful in PvE and easier to use in both PvE and PvP. Okay. Increase damage versus champions, mini bosses, and vehicles by 20%, miners by 40%. Improve projectile collision, making it slightly easier to land hits. Increase blast radius by 1 meter. Parasite is unaffected. It does huge damage already. That is true. Damn. So by the sound of that, it seems to me like Anarchy is going to be pretty useful again, but at least just from what I'm, taking from this. So take with that what you will. Alright, covering shotguns now. The new shotgun reticles show the correct spread pattern, but in its shipping form, the size of the reticle wasn't affected by the current spread angle, which will change if you jump or with magazine options like smoothbore. This change should make the reticle accurate in most ways at 85-degree field of view. A change to make this accurate for all FOV options will come in a future season. Okay, that's nice. Shotgun reticles now change in size proportional to spread angle. Related note, the Legend of Acrius hipfire reticle is now a bit more representative of its very large spread angle. All right, kinetic weapons. Kinetic slot weapons have always done 5% more damage versus unshielded targets in PvP. This meant kinetic slot stasis weapons were straight up better, with extra fun functionality and no downside. We wanted to give players more of a reason to run kinetic damage type weapons, so instead of a blanket kinetic slot damage boost, we're switching to kinetic type damage boost based on whether your kinetic weapon uses primary or special ammo, and increase the bonus significantly. Okay, so kinetic primary weapon damage multiplier increase from 1.05 to 1.1. Kinetic special weapon damage multiplier increase from 1.05 to 1.15. Kinetic slot stasis weapons no longer have the 5% damage bonus versus unshielded targets in PvE. RIP. There's also a kinetic damage type perk coming in Lightfall. Okay, that'll be interesting. All right. Now we're covering exotics. Okay, let's get into it. Just like many players, we've wanted exotic weapons that have a strong theming around their damage type to use the real subclass 3.0 verbs. And Lightfall's longer development and playtest cycle gave us the opportunity to add subclass verbs to many of the top perks. Our goal with added subclass 3.0 verbs is to grant these weapons additional functionality and let them tie into subclass builds in a more meaningful way. In most cases, this is also or paired with a hefty buff. Ooh, okay, well shit. Queenbreaker. The Queenbreaker's blinding effect was underwhelming for a heavy weapon, so we've changed how that's deployed. Note that Queenbreaker was also not affected by the global damage reduction to linear fusion rifles, making it substantially stronger by comparison. Okay, we might see a Queenbreaker meta. Shots now chain to nearby enemies and uses R 3.0 blind. Ruinous Effigy feels very voidy, and slamming the Transmutation Sphere was an obvious place to put an additional effect. Transmutation Sphere slam now attacks now suppress. Okay, that might actually be pretty good. Shit. The Leviathan's Breath buff from a few seasons back inadvertently reduced the PvP damage enough that it could no longer one-hit kill Guardians in their super with a headshot. We fixed that, but also added Volatile and increased the damage versus champions significantly to highlight its anti-champion role. Now applies Volatile on Perfect Draw Impact, increases damage from 396 to 442. This allows it once again to one-hit kill Guardians. One-hit kill all supers in PvP, my bad. Increase damage versus champions by 30%. Wow, okay. Okay. Ooh, 1K. Okay, I have not used this gun in a while, but let's see what they did to it. 1000 Voices was briefly a top pick in Season 14, but has been eclipsed by other options since then. We wanted to lean even more into a chain of solar explosions by adding Scourge, and with the global heavy weapon changes, it's also a strong option. If you have Ember of Ashes equipped, landing a full burst on a single target will trigger an ignition immediately. Exact results may vary depending on whether other players are also scorching on target. Each explosion now applies 10 plus 5 Embers of Ashes scorch stacks. Sunshot was a top candidate for applying solar subclass verbs, and the explosions are the clear place to add to. Explosion on kill now applies 10 plus 5 scorch stacks. Polaris Lance always had a burn effect, so it was an obvious change to which this oh my gosh, it was an obvious change to switch this to Scorch. Perfect Fifth Shot now applies 40 plus 20 scorch stacks instead of a custom burn. Two-Tailed Fox has had a tough competition as a heavy weapon, but now it's the only weapon that can apply subclass verbs for multiple damage types without extra steps. Solar Rocket now applies 60 plus 30 scorch stacks instead of burn. The Void Rocket also applies suppress, and the Catalyst completes the trifecta. Prometheus Lens has utility with its Solar 3.0 rework, but we wanted to give it something more spectacular on kills in addition. Added the Incandescent perk to the Catalyst. Grand Overture's latest buff increased the missile damage by 50%, brought it up plenty. It just needed its blind updated to tie into R 3.0. Switch the Catalyst to use R 3.0 blind. Okay. So yeah, they really are just going all out with these weapons, man. I'm hoping 1K will be good again. It's not by any means a bad weapon, but hey, I just want to see it get its shine again in the meta. And Prometheus Lens, honestly, with the Incandescent, you're going to be blowing up a lot of shit. Okay, Hipfire Reticles. We're starting to experiment with Hipfire Reticles, conveying more information, and use the Manticore as a test bed for this. You can expect to see more weapon type or exotic weapon functionality up in Hipfire Reticles in Season 21 and beyond. Added a reticle element to the Manticore, showing current stacks of anti-grav repulsor. Alright, now we get into perks. With Strand coming to the game along with a new Strand weapon damage perk, we've updated a couple of older perks. Osmosis now works with Strand. Elemental Capacitor now has the following effect when using a Strand subclass: plus 20 airborne effectiveness, plus 25 for the enhanced version. Rewind rounds will be appearing on more weapons in Lightfall, but was custom built to only work with the Vaults of Glass weapons. We've tweaked it more to be more general purpose. Rebuilt to work on non-Vaults of Glass weapons. Okay, so they're just adding them to Vlog weapons. Eager Edge has had some bugs that needed addressing in previous release. We've now taken the time to do a more complete rework, which also lets us reduce or remove most of the restrictions that were in place. No longer deactivates when moving faster than 35 meters. Deactivates correctly after a single melee swing. Reduce the base lunge distance buff from 2 to 1.8. Reduce airborne lunge distance penalty from 25% to 20%. The enhanced perk now increases lunge distance slightly back up to 2. Okay. So at least, yeah, because I know for a lot of people, this right here really killed it for them in terms of speed running and stuff. But hopefully with that being reverted, you guys can just zoom through all the content you want to. All right, blinding grenades on grenade launchers don't do arc damage, so it's not appropriate for them to trigger R3.0 blind effects. We didn't feel the need to change their disorienting effect though, so we've updated the name to overlap less. Rename blinding grenades to disorienting grenades. Vice Stinger is one of the most desirable origin traits in the game, particularly but not only on linear fusions, to the point where it makes it hard for non-vice weapons to compete. It needed some adjustment. With this change, it's still valuable, but now in line with other origin traits. This was typically a full reload when the perk activated. It now reloads 25% of the magazine. Yeah, because I know if you got this with like Taipan, you almost never had to reload. It was crazy. The future. We're already hard at work on Season 21 and 22, and some of the changes we're making include adding a full auto melee accessibility setting, which will apply to all forms of melee, a passover weapon type, and exotic weapon hipfire reticles, including increasing how visibly they change even at high FOV. And added features like charge meters and exotic perk counters. We've also got balance changes in the work, but it's a little too early to get into them. We'll have more information to share post Lightfall. Okay. That wraps it up. So wow, so far, yeah, they are really going all out with Lightfall, man. They changing up a bunch of shit with these weapons, bringing linears in line and making some other weapons really shine in the light. Damn, this shit is crazy. Yeah, adding and just like these changes right here, them adding all the perks to the exotic heavy weapons and just special weapons and all that, really making them have their own identity, whether they're just being like, blow up shit or just suppress anything. It's really nice to see them actually, taking that time to make the weapons feel different and unique to each other. But anyways, that's gonna end it for this video. Hope you guys enjoyed. If you did, make sure to leave a like and subscribe. It really does help me out a lot, and I will catch you guys next time. Peace out.